They are not presidents. They are not kings. They do not appear on ballots, and their names rarely make headlines. But they are more powerful than any elected official. Over centuries, they have learned one truth. The world is ruled not by laws or armies, but by debt. This is the story of the 0.001% of 12 families whose influence has woven through the fabric of global finance since the dawn of modern banking. Their legacy spans generations, empires, and revolutions. And yet, most people have never heard their names. To understand their power, we must go back to the 17th century. When Amsterdam and London were the centers of global trade, merchant banking families, like the Fuggers, the Medicis, and later the Rothschilds, began mastering a new form of leverage, lending not to individuals, but to nations. War needed financing. Kings needed credit. And these families provided both, with interest. The Rothschilds, often the most cited of these dynasties, perfected the art of sovereign lending. By the 1800s, they were financing both sides of wars, from Napoleon to Wellington. But they were not alone. Other families, like the Warburgs in Germany, the Oppenheimers in South Africa, and the Rockefellers in America, built their fortunes on oil, gold, and loans. What connected them wasn't just wealth, it was access. Access to central banks, to policymakers, to the very levers of monetary creation. Fast forward to 1913. The Federal Reserve Act was passed in the United States during a quiet Christmas session of Congress. It established a private central bank with the power to issue currency and control interest rates. But few know that behind this act was a secret meeting on Jekyll Island, a private resort off the coast of Georgia, where representatives of powerful banking families met in secret to design what would become the Fed. Among them were Paul Warburg, representing his family's German banking empire, representatives of J.P. Morgan, and others tied to the Kuhn, Loeb & Company banking house. It wasn't a conspiracy, it was business. But that business would give them unprecedented influence over the world's largest economy. From then on, the model was clear. Control the issuance of money, and you control the nation. Every dollar printed by the Federal Reserve is issued as debt. Every loan, every bond, every mortgage, new money created from nothing, owed back with interest. This isn't unique to the U.S. Nearly every central bank in the world follows the same model. And behind many of them, quietly advising or investing, are descendants or affiliates of these legacy banking families. But it's not just about central banks. It's about how debt is used as a tool of global control. After World War II, the Bretton Woods Conference created institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. These institutions were designed under heavy influence from U.S. and British financial elites, many of whom had direct or indirect ties to the same family networks that had dominated pre-war finance. These institutions began offering loans to developing nations, on paper, to help them grow. But the loans came with conditions: austerity, privatization, and deregulation. In practice, they created dependency. Nations would struggle to repay, and in doing so, would cede control over their economies, their resources, and their sovereignty. It is a modern form of empire, not built with soldiers, but with spreadsheets. In the 1970s, the petrodollar system was born. After the U.S. left the gold standard, it struck a deal with Saudi Arabia, price oil in dollars, and the U.S. would provide military protection. The result was a global demand for dollars, reinforcing the dollar's dominance and ensuring that countries needed to borrow U.S. currency to buy essential energy. Behind these moves were banks like Chase Manhattan, Citibank, and others with deep ties to the Rockefeller and Morgan families. They profited from the recycling of petrodollars, loaning them to countries that needed to buy oil, and collecting interest for decades. In every financial crash, in 1929, in 2008, and even during the COVID-19 pandemic, the same pattern emerges. Central banks print money to stabilize markets. Governments go deeper into debt. And the wealth gap widens. Who benefits? Those closest to the source of liquidity. Those with assets that rise in value when money is cheap. Those who can borrow at 0 and lend at 10. Today, 12 families control more wealth than 3.5 billion people combined. Their names shift through time, some old, some new. But their strategy remains: own the debt, own the system. They operate through holding companies, foundations, and trusts. Their influence is less about public headlines and more about quiet boardrooms. They fund think tanks, universities, and media outlets. They shape what we learn about history, economics, and politics. And yet they are not omnipotent. Their power depends on a fragile illusion that the system they built is too complex to question. But history tells a different story. Every empire built on debt has eventually collapsed. Rome debased its currency until its economy imploded. France's monarchy fell after overextending credit. Even the British Empire, at its peak, was buried under the weight of its own financial obligations. So what happens when today's global debt reaches its breaking point? Total global debt now exceeds $300 trillion. Central banks are trapped. Raise rates and economies crash. Lower them and inflation spirals. The tools of the past no longer work. Some say the next step is digital. Central bank digital currencies, programmable money, social credit systems. But these are not just technological innovations. They are mechanisms of control. Imagine a future where every transaction is tracked, every loan approved or denied based on your profile, and dissent is punished by freezing your funds. It's not science fiction. It's already being tested. And who will design these systems? The same institutions, the same families, the same networks that built the last one. But the cracks are showing. More people are asking questions. Decentralized finance, Bitcoin, gold. These are not just assets. They are forms of resistance. Each represents a challenge to the monopoly of money creation. The truth is not hidden. It is simply ignored. The 0.001% have always known that debt is power. That by owning the issuance of currency, they could shape history itself. But history is not destiny. It is a story we can choose to rewrite. The question is no longer who controls the money. The question is, what are we willing to do about it?